What a free and easy way to live.
Yeah, really though. Especially if your horse knew the way home. Horses are the original self-driving cars. I've always said that.
Yeah. I can't get you to stop saying that.
Yeah, sorry, Elon.
You got beat.
This was invented a long time ago.
Someone beat to the punch hundreds of years ago.
Welcome. Oh, here we go. Welcome to the Low Grade Research Podcast. So speaking of E.T.,
Yep.
The other day my wife and I were driving and we saw a Cybertruck.
Okay.
Which they're starting to become more popular now.
Yeah,
Don't know
disgusting.
why. They are a little disgusting. And some of the wraps that get put on them. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but anyway.
You mean the necessary wraps because it's just untreated stainless steel?
No, because some of them are even worse than that. I saw one the other day that had like almost like what you'd think a mermaid's scale would look like. Where's that like bright green, like reflective color from like a fish tank?
Was it? It was just a
No,
solid color?
Solid color, but it was like that color.
Dull.
No, it wasn't great. Wasn't great at all. Anyway, we saw a Cybertruck driving down the road, and in the back, in the bed of it,
Yep.
was a like life-size E.T. statue.
Why?
I have no idea.
What is going on with these Cybertruck
But we
drivers?
both agreed
Yeah.
that is the most appropriate vehicle for it to be in.
Either that or, well, I was going to say that leg lamp with the fishnet stocking from A Christmas Story would be appropriate. But now that I'm thinking about it, that belongs in like the bed of like a, I don't know, like an 87 Chevy, like two-tone Chevy.
Yeah.
White and yellow.
Just right in the center. Lit up.
Yep.
Statue.
Fuzzy dice in the mirror.
I guess. Man, you are hitting all kinds of decades.
Well, didn't realize it was going to be a criticize episode. But I agree with you. I think that probably is the most appropriate vehicle. I would be really curious to know. I'm a little surprised you didn't follow him to see where they were taking an ET statue.
Well, we had anything else to do.
Did you?
Than follow a Cybertruck.
Okay, but following a Cybertruck is one thing. But like, if I saw anybody that had a visible ET statue, it's like
Fair
whatever
enough.
plans I had for the day are probably
I think we were we were on our way to a wedding.
Well, that's not important.
We had to be there on time.
Were you part of it?
No, we were at the actual ceremony.
Yeah, you were like, you weren't part of the wedding?
Not like the wedding party.
Oh, so you're just invited to the ceremony of it?
Correct.
Yeah, see, that's not a good enough reason. You could have followed an ET statue.
I'll have to tell my friend, I regret going to your ceremony.
That's what I'd tell him.
As beautiful as it was, I'm sad that I missed out on this other opportunity.
Okay, get this, though. I missed your wedding, but I followed this dude who had an ET statue in the back. Turns out it was a bunch of Satanists doing a ritual.
I had to know.
I beat him up.
You'll be happy to know we stopped them.
We stopped it.
So,
before the bloodletting could commence.
That's right.
We saved 13 goats. All right, this is a joke that's getting dumb.
I don't know where it's going to go.
I don't think it started anywhere.
Anyway. So yeah, that was my Friday.
Nice.
Yeah. Any cool facts you learned this week? I got nothing too, so just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
Actually, I think I do have one. I'm a little worried that we've already talked about it.
That's all right. I'm happy to reference people to previous episodes.
Do we ever talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect?
No.
Are you sure? Or are you just saying that?
No, I don't think we have.
Because honestly, either way it works, because... Actually, you know, it's kind of crazy. This is a tangent within a tangent within a tangent. But as I've been editing our episodes, I've already run into... This is going to be a little bit of a peek behind the curtain for our listeners, which might be a little bit of a buzzkill. But we don't record our episodes the week we release them.
Currently, we're not that proficient.
We aren't. 'Cause we have lives. We have other stuff going on. We both work full time. So it's like, it's hard to try and find the time to do it all in the same week. And we have another podcast we were working on.
Stay tuned for that.
But, so we have like a backlog of episodes. And as I've been editing these episodes, I've already run across stuff that we've talked about that I have zero concept of at all, that I don't remember even talking about.
I get that. I just recently, my mom asked me about some of the stuff we talked about on our whitewater rafting episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, the hell if I know.
Wrong guy, lady.
Hey, we talked about this 5 days ago.
We say over and over again, if you want to learn more, go look it up for yourself, because we're not going to be able to remember.
You can't just listen to it. You got to read about it. You got to do a little bit of your own research. But yes, I mean, some of the stuff I could remember, but like some of the other episodes we've recorded months ago.
Yeah. And
I'll listen to them again. It starts out listening. We start listening to episodes. How's the sound quality? How's our chemistry? And then it's like, I am learning so much
of my own episode.
That I did so much research for.
So the one that blew my mind was there's an episode as we're recording this, our listeners will have enjoyed several weeks ago, called Chasky.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't listened to it, it's great. It's about this kind of amazing group of it's your episode.
So more or less, it's kind of the some of the first ultra marathoners.
Yeah, who are also delivering parcels and messages.
Yeah, it's early UPS for Latin America.
I think you describe it in the episode as the grandfather of like the forefathers for Pony Express.
Yeah, I guess so.
Kind of on the wrong,
different region of the
totally
world,
wrong
though,
region. It was your comparison, not mine, but.
Well, back then there was no United States. It was just all one massive land.
Yeah, the whole world was just a massive land.
That's true. It was before the continental divide.
Anyway, in that episode, I'm not going to say his name here because I bleeped him out. I think I might have missed one actually in the episode when I edited it. But we have a mutual PE coach that was a lunatic from when we were both in middle school. And in the episode, I think we tell like 6 stories about this dude, which I probably should have cut out because I'm sure none of them were fun to listen to. But at one point, I'm telling a story about this PE coach that he told, a story that he told. And while future me was editing the episode, I'm listening to past me tell the story, thinking, where is this going to go? This is crazy. What happens next?
Listening to you tell your own story.
And then it like clicked. I was like, oh, this is me telling this. And I have no idea what I'm about to say.
Well, hopefully that means we're putting out good content for our listeners.
I don't know if that is an indicator of good content. I think maybe it just means we have poor memories.
Even you're so... Oh, yeah. Well, what's going to happen next?
If nothing else...
Oh, yeah. This is my lived experience.
If nothing else, this is just going to be posterity, like for recordings for posterity, rather.
Absolutely.
So when our kids are old enough, they can listen to these and listen to how stupid their dads were, and then
talking about randomness.
Yep. So
I was paid a compliment the other day that we do present some very interesting topics.
Well, that's the goal, right?
Then that's what I tried to explain.
It's got to be marketable if we're going to get our sponsor, Springville Meats, on board. Our future sponsor. Meats. Speaking of Springville Meats, Mitch, you like meat?
Love meat.
You like chewing on stuff?
I do.
You ever combine those two?
Chewing on stuff and meat?
Yeah.
I have.
I'm talking about chewing on meats. And if that's something that you, dear listener, are a fan of, go ahead and mosey on down or clickety-clack into your computer and find, what is it?
Springville Meat Co.
Home of the
meats.
Where the meat meets you.
Go check them out.
All right. Speaking of none of this, you keep doing that, by the way. You'll move the mic out of the way when you laugh. You got to stop doing that.
I didn't want that one recorded.
We're being pre-selective of our laughs.
I don't have a mute button, so it's just my hand moving the mic away.
Well, I can't fault you for that. It's because he moves it away to say a really bad swear word.
No, it's not, Mom.
I think 35 minutes ago when I started talking about the thing that I learned this week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember way back when?
About
you asked me if I learned anything cool.
I did, and it was about an effect. I don't recall what it was called.
Well, we only went down 16 different tangents.
Thanks for sticking with us, folks.
It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I don't have the Wikipedia page up. I'm sure there is one, but usually we use the Wikipedia page as a crutch because we almost always get the information wrong, and then we can just blame Wikipedia. But in this case, it's just going to be me getting it wrong. So buckle up. But in essence, the Dunning-Kruger effect is the idea that you can learn, that there's like a sliding scale of knowledge when it comes to a particular topic.
Okay.
So you start at 0, obviously, and then we'll call 100 being a master of whatever that topic might be. But at a certain point, when you start learning more about something, you'll hit a threshold where you've learned enough about it that you feel like you know most of it.
Okay.
And that threshold is below the threshold where we'll say that's 30% on that scale, a 30 out of 100. So you get up to a 30 out of 100, and then you might feel like, oh, I know enough about this topic that I'm a master on this topic, and
Sure.
and I know all there is to know. And then if you keep going, then eventually you'll learn maybe up to 60% or above, and then you'll learn enough about it to realize that you know very little about it.
Yeah, I get that.
Right? And the difference in those two is the attitude in which you present the information. And I guess it's the same thing as being like an armchair expert, right? Because if I learn enough about Formula One cars, I'll get to a point where I feel like I pretty much know what there is to know about it. And then in my ignorance, I'll spout off the stuff that I think that I know. And it might be to people who know quite a bit more than I do. And then it's like, dude, you have like no real idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they will have learned enough that they know what they don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I probably explained that really bad. If you want to learn more about that, I'm sure that there's a Wikipedia page about it. But this all came about because I was going to say Tyson Fury, and that's definitely the wrong Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Could not be
very different Tysons.
Polar opposites.
Yeah, one's white.
Is he white?
And that's Tyson Fury, the boxer.
I know. Does he count as white?
He's very British.
Oh, yikes.
That's pretty white.
We'll have to cut this out.
You're not thinking of...
The boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Gypsy King.
Yeah.
All right.
He's British?
Yeah.
Are you sure he's British?
Yeah.
Why would he be the Gypsy King if he's British?
There's gypsies in Britain.
I don't think...
He's British.
I think you're suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect, my friend.
Don't trust me on this one. I've seen boxing.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. All right. Well, whether or not Tyson Fury is white, we'll leave it up to you, the listener. Because there's no possible way we could come to a consensus in this episode. There's no possible way.
All right. Agree to disagree.
Terrence Howard.
Okay.
Was he you'll know him. He's an actor who
I know who that is.
Who was the counterpart for Iron Man in the first Iron Man.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to like continue on the legacy. And I usually I poke a lot of fun at a lot of people, but genuinely speaking, I'm not a huge fan of like yucking somebody else's yum or like putting somebody down.
Sure.
Like legitimately, but he was made famous again or got into the news, I guess, recently because he got on Joe Rogan and just spouted off like straight up lunacy.
I started listening to that. Wild.
And you're a big fan now? Or?
Huge fan. I bought a 4x6 poster. It's on my wall.
And it just has a picture of Terrence Howard with 1 × 1 = 2 underneath it?
Yes.
Well.
So say less.
Great. Well, what are we talking about today?
No, keep going. Finish your thought. And then we'll get
I was just
into
going to say that so Terrence has all these ideas about kind of trying to rethink foundational physics and mathematics and all of these things. And he thinks that there's a bunch of big holes in what we've explored already, which, to be fair and to be on his side, and there's a really big common misconception between the scientific community and I guess like the layman, the regular community, that people think when they hear something like scientific theory, like the word, I know that I'm going on like the world's biggest tangent of tangents, but I do think it's important to say, especially because we're amateur researchers ourselves, but the word theory, like if you hear about the theory of gravity, in science that means something totally different than it would if I just said I've got a theory about why there's so much milk at the grocery store.
Sure.
Right? Because, like, commonly spoken, the word theory is like
I've got an idea.
Yeah, it's like maybe an educated guess sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like a loose idea of why something might happen, or even, that can even go up to as strong as like it is an educated guess. Like I've got a theory that this is X, Y, or Z. But in the scientific community, a theory is something that has been so thoroughly tested, it is almost without doubt that is like a rule or a law in the universe, right?
Yep.
So something like the theory of gravity, there are, I would venture to say, thousands or tens of thousands of studies that have been published that have to do with or test gravity in one way or another, to the point that it is so thoroughly tested that we have a really solid concept of what it is and what it's going to do and how it's going to behave. But the idea with how science is pursued now is that there's an open door.
Okay.
Right? So that the whole scientific community is saying we have such a strong idea now because of all this testing of what gravity is, but there's still a possibility that we just haven't tested the right thing and we could be wrong, right?
That's kind of the more recent consensus with a lot of things in science I've come across, is like it works and it goes this way until it doesn't. The only reason we know that it does this certain thing is because so far that's the only way it's been done.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's the idea that like we'll leave the door open in case there's some new evidence that's going to come through.
Exactly.
So going back to Terrence Howard, it's like, if he found some legitimate thing with physics or mathematics that pokes a hole in it, genuinely speaking, then awesome. Like, let's explore that and see where it can take us. But then he like wrote this treatise about...
Oh yeah, he's got it all published and stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, like what he believed. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson posted this YouTube video of kind of like a response to that, because he actually got his hands on the treatise and then went through and like marked it up and stuff.
Cool.
And so he just kind of like goes point for point, like, this is incorrect. We believe this is incorrect because this, and we can prove it because of that. But then he brought up the Dunning-Kruger effect, and he was like, what I think the problem is that you know enough about these topics that you feel like you're an expert on them, but you haven't learned enough to know what you don't know.
Sure.
Right.
Interesting.
So...
Dunning-Kruger, check it out.
We're 17 minutes in, and I've only just finished explaining the Dunning-Kruger effect and all the tangents that took us there. So,
well, it's pretty interesting. I'd be interested in knowing what some of our audience thinks is their Dunning-Kruger.
Ooh.
Like, what's something you think you know a lot about, or you used to, and then recently you're like, yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Well, what's yours?
For me, it's always something. It always has to do with cars.
Okay.
Because and it's one of those things where it's like I have gotten to a point where it's like the more I learn and the more I know, the more I'm like, yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel confident enough explaining some things to people, but as I continue to learn about cars and how they work and all the different ins and outs of an engine and stuff, the more I realize I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah,
I get that.
So I've gone a pretty big chunk of a full circle on that one.
You do know quite a bit about cars, though, and how they work. I think mine might be like, I guess maybe it's not fair to lump these two together, but I've always felt like I've got a really firm grasp on like content production.
Sure.
In terms of like graphic design or like editing audio video.
We've done a lot of it.
I've done quite a bit. And I've even done it, as a job for people, on and off and freelance a little bit. But like, especially having started this podcast, I've learned so much more about all of this that I really didn't know about. And it's one of those things, like you start working with a certain software and then you think that you just know all the stuff there is to know about it, but then you've never really stopped to explore everything it might be able to do. So it's pretty eye-opening.
Oh, for sure.
So
very cool.
I think I'm ready to talk about whatever we want to talk about as soon as we take a quick break.
Thank you. Oh, we're back.
We're back. I just want you all to know that Mitch just showed me a clip from a Bollywood movie where a dude slides a horse on its side underneath a flatbed semi-trailer.
Yeah, this was before sport bikes made it there.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're thinking that sounds freaking awesome, it was just as cool as you can imagine.
Yeah, so go Google that.
Yeah, actually, we might even link to it for this episode.
It was dope. All right, are you ready for this?
Yeah, I mean, we've recorded about 20 minutes worth of content already, so...
Good, it'll give these people something to think about.
What, everything we talked about already?
Exactly.
Great.
So we're continuing with our Obsolete Jobs series.
Heyo.
And this one's maybe something that some people have heard of.
Okay.
Because it is something that I've seen pictures of, like in history books.
Okay.
So we're going to get into it. The job we're talking about today is a knocker-up.
Okay.
Yeah. Off the top of your head, what do you think this job entails?
I think you know off the top of my head what I think it entails.
It has nothing to do with infertility, I'll tell you that.
Okay, then... I'm going to guess maybe... I don't know, it's like maybe a position in a police force. They go... Like they're knocking up bums or
criminals?
Like people on the street or something.
Nope, not that either.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it. So a knocker-up was someone who was hired to wake people up at a certain time.
Okay.
So during the 1700s, I don't know why I keep doing this with my hands.
Yeah, you look like Donald Trump with your hands.
I've never
right now.
done this before.
No, you haven't. I've never seen that before.
Oh, well,
I've known you 30 years. I've never seen you do that before.
Glad you folks can't see. This is just an audio podcast.
Honestly, I'm glad they can't see either because it's weird.
You know, my father-in-law told me the other day, because he's been listening to some of these, he says, "You've got a great face for radio." I said, "Thanks." Your daughter likes it. No.
He's not your parent. He doesn't have to care about your feelings.
So back in the day, we're talking 1700s to mid-1800s.
Okay.
Alarm clocks weren't super reliable.
Did they even exist?
Technology. They existed, but they were very inconsistent. Also, if you set the time wrong, then your alarm would be inconsistent.
You probably have to like wind them up and stuff too, right?
Exactly. So if you forget to wind it in the middle of the night, it runs out of wind. It's not going to go off.
Right.
So to combat that, towns would hire people to do certain routes to wake people up.
Sure.
And it mostly involved just knocking on their doors or windows until that person was awake.
Knock her up.
A knocker-up. They were, as we keep going, they were real creative with the names of some of these things.
Yeah, yes, they were. You just mean like with this season in general?
I guess with this season in general. I'm talking about with this article.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they were real clever. So we've got the knocker-up. And this was popular mostly in Great Britain and like the Netherlands.
Okay.
So real Western Europe. This was a pretty common thing.
Does the Netherlands count as Western Europe?
Well, it's pretty Western, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Right?
It's not Eastern.
It's definitely not Eastern. They weren't having any of this.
You know what people call this?
What's that?
An argument worth hearing on a podcast.
They do. And it is.
And it's done.
So typically on their routes, a knocker-up would use a baton or just a really heavy stick and knock on people's doors with it. Sometimes they...
Did you already say that they knock on the doors?
Maybe.
Because my mind just went to that they're just sneaking into someone's house with a big heavy stick.
And just whopping them over the head with it.
Beating them over the
head. Get up! The Queen's not waiting.
Yeah, back in the 1700s, if you had the Queen waiting outside your door, you didn't go to sleep. You're staying up all night for that.
The Queen needs her breakfast.
Your breakfast is you.
No, they were just knocking on their doors.
Okay.
Or windows.
Sure.
Depending. If you lived on a second story or a second floor, the knocker-uppers would have... Like
is that real?
That's what they were called. A knocker-upper. which just sounds like the guy you don't want your sister to be dating.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially in 1800s Britain.
When you first said, what do you think a knocker-up is? Immediately I thought, the guy I don't want my sister to be dating. Get real.
No, it turns out you did want your sister to be dating because he had an actual job.
Wait, hold on. That makes it sound like you think my sister's boyfriend doesn't have a job.
I didn't even know she was dating.
She is, and he definitely does have a job.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, we'll skip that.
Yeah, we might edit this out.
So if the person that needed to be awoken lived on a higher story, then the knocker-upper would carry around with him an even longer stick. But usually it was lighter, like bamboo.
Okay.
Which is not that common in Eastern Europe, so...
Just tools of the trade.
Tools of the trade. I've got my bamboo stick here and my baton.
You imagine teaching this job to like an apprentice?
All right, they're on the first level. Use your baton. Use your short stick. They're on the second level. Use your long stick.
All right, you've got it.
If you're on the third level,
they don't get up.
They don't get out. You're out of luck.
So they'd use the long stick to just tap on the window.
Yep.
And just kind of depending on who your knocker-upper was for your area, they'd either wait for you to actually get up and open the window and be like, yeah, I'm up. Just
Sure.
like you would to a real alarm clock.
Yeah.
Or they would just knock.
You talk to your alarm clock?
Yeah, I'm up. Just 5 more minutes, Mom.
Oh no.
Or,
You're married.
yeah, I get up before my wife does. Every day.
Well, there you go.
Or they would just knock and then leave. So just hoping that they did their job right that day.
Well, I mean, wouldn't that be what you did?
What do you mean?
That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sit and wait around.
No, not unless I knew like my clients, I guess, if they were my neighbors and I was like the neighborhood guy. I would feel like I would give a pretty good rap on the door and be like, all right, I'm out.
I'm just thinking like in terms of treating other adults like adults, it'd be like,
oh, sure.
You already had to pay me to come and wake you up.
Well,
if you're not going to get up after I rap on your window, tough luck. You know.
I think it was just to ensure that, just to ensure that that person did get up so that later that day they're like, oh, why didn't you wake me up? We're doing awesome accents on this episode.
I know. I was just thinking I usually do a way better English accent, but for some reason I get nervous when we're recording.
I'm putting on a real good, do I want to say Cockney accent? Is that what it is?
No. Well, I think your wording is right, but the accent is not.
Well, my one British friend will let me know.
You have a British friend?
I have a British coworker.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Do they smell like beans?
Well, it smells like beans here. Oh, too funny.
Yikes.
So there's a really famous picture of a knocker-upper from back in the day, because this individual, her name was Mary Smith, and her daughter actually became a knocker-upper after her.
Generational.
It was a generational job.
Nice.
And she...
Was there much money in this?
Not really. It was kind of like a... I'll talk about that. We can go into that real quick because there's not a ton to talk about, and it's pretty simple. Where was that note? All right. Yeah, sorry about that.
You're good.
Good thing we can edit. So a lot of people kind of use it as just kind of like a side job. So there was actually a really large population of police officers that would just do it as they ended their shifts.
Oh, nice.
So if they were on patrol through the evening or through the night and then into the morning, they would just kind of, for a few extra bucks, like, I'll do this before I go home type of deal.
Well, that's not bad.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that.
I would imagine that the people who hired them felt more comforted than as a police officer anyway.
Yeah, because then your police officer's not asleep in an alley somewhere.
Well, and they're like patrolling your neighborhood and your house, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless they're just doing it for the $2 to wake you up and they don't care about the guy sneaking a stick of dynamite through your mail slot.
What?
Listen,
heavy, bro.
It's the 1700s.
Heavy.
You have no idea what life was like back then.
Fair enough. I kind of relate this job to like
Actually, I think in a previous episode I said something about the people in the 1700s I pictured were just struggling to breathe.
Well, it was the Industrial Revolution, so there was a lot of burning of coal.
Yeah, so you're just struggling to breathe and a lot of dynamite being shoved into your mail slot.
You may not be as far off as I thought you were.
Well, I'm writing a Wikipedia page about it, so we're going to present that later.
Very cool, very cool. But I relate this job to kind of like a paper route of the day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where it's like, yeah, I'll make a few extra bucks and then go on with my day.
Yeah, why not?
But this begs the question, who would wake up the knocker-uppers? What if they were late?
Well, that's like that's catastrophic.
Yeah, that whole neighborhood is late for work that day.
Yeah, what if you got 50 households that are waiting on you to wake them up?
Oh, yeah, what if you're like, oh, I've got someone that wakes me up in the morning. Of course I'll go out drinking with you tonight. I don't have to just get up with the sun.
And I don't have to worry about a designated driver because this is 1700s and people are riding horses drunk all the time.
That's right. As long as your horse wasn't drunk, it wasn't drunk driving.
What a free and easy way to live.
Yeah, really, though. Especially if your horse knew the way home. Horses are the original self-driving cars. I've always said that.
Yeah. I can't get you to stop saying that.
Shut up about the horses, bro. Yeah, breathe through that one.
Oh, if that's not a t-shirt idea, I've never heard one in my life.
The original self-driving car?
Yeah.
A drunk guy on a horse. Oh, absolutely.
I'm putting it in the vault, baby.
Yeah, sorry, Elon.
You got beat.
This was invented a long time ago.
Someone beat to the punch hundreds of years ago.
Oh, too good. So, in addition to waking people up, sometimes these knocker-uppers would also have an additional gig with it, where they would put out the gas lamps in the streets. So typically at dusk, the gas lamps in the streets were lit, and they would burn usually all night long.
Yeah.
And then they would go around and put them out as they would wake people up.
Sure.
And they
Couple
would use
extra cents as you go.
Exactly. And they would use a tool called a snuffer outer to put the gas lights out.
So the knocker-uppers got a snuffer outer?
Yep.
Yikes.
Yeah, real clever with these names here.
Yep.
That was the other one I was talking about.
Wearing their shoesy footsies?
That's what they called it.
Yeah, I know.
And you know.
On the original self-driving car. Feed that thing a carrot and you're off to the races.
Terrific.
Think of how many lamps you could snuff out and windows you could bash up if you're on your self-driving car in the 1700s.
You could get a lot done.
A lot done.
And the houses were like right next to the street too, so you could just ride your horse right up to the window.
Yeah.
You could probably stand on top of your horse and get that second story window.
It's the same thing as I have a New York Times subscription, and he got me a weekend subscription because I like to read the Sunday paper because it's got the cartoons and whatever in it.
Of course.
I don't care about the news. But the dude who...
I just want to know that rascally Cat Garfield's up to this weekend.
But I get a Friday, Saturday, Sunday paper, and the dude who delivers them just pulls up as close as humanly possible to my driveway in his car, and then I can watch him out there, and he'll stuff the newspaper in a bag, put one rubber band around it that doesn't even hold it closed,
right,
and then throw it from his driver's side through his passenger window out onto my driveway. And not even well.
Wow, incredible.
It just like half the time it will like hit his passenger door on its way out, and
so it barely makes it to the sidewalk.
Like basically dribbles out of his car and then lands. Yeah, it's pathetic.
So I'm recalling growing up. I feel like your family used to get the paper a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm recalling a time where I went over to your house and the paper was just at the end of the driveway. Probably the same guy was delivering it back then.
Yeah, 100%.
And
this dude's like 90.
And it had like rained a little bit. So the bag that it was in was really wet. So I like pulled the paper out of it. And the paper was a little bit wet. And the pages were like loose and stuff.
Yeah.
And you were walking back into your house. And I just decided to throw this newspaper at you. I threw it way high. I just kind of wanted to throw it over you to get it on your porch.
Okay.
I think in my mind I was like, if I was a paper boy, I bet I could make that throw. Like, this guy sucks at his job, whoever it is. So I threw it, and the papers start fluttering, and
yes.
And it makes this shadow that goes over you, and you ducked hard, like almost to the ground. And you're like, oh my gosh, dude, I thought a bird was attacking me. Because you freaked out so bad, and I was like, bro, like, what's going on?
I don't remember that at all.
Oh, it had me going.
That does make me think, though. I've not thought about this in years and years, but there was a summer where, like, you remember when phone books were a thing?
Oh yeah,
Half
and
of our
you
listeners
get a new one every year.
Yeah, half our listeners will know what a phone book is, and then the other half is going to Google it, which is so weird to even say. It makes me feel old to say that.
Did you ever go through it to see if you could find your house?
Yeah, I'm sure I did a couple of times. Yeah, yeah, and you got to just search and search and search.
Like I'm somebody.
And it seems a little insane that everybody's name and home address was just publicly available like that.
A little bit.
Which I know it is still in different ways, but it's like a little nutso.
Yeah, but it wasn't delivered to your doorstep.
Yeah, to the serial killer's doorstep.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, one summer, my dad, because you could like sign up to be the people who delivered the new phone book for that year.
Okay, sure.
And so, like, I remember we got them delivered off this box truck, and then...
So you guys signed up to deliver them?
Yeah. And so we just had like stacks and stacks and stacks of phone books in our garage. And then... we had a crappy old like Chrysler minivan or something, Dodge minivan.
I remember that thing.
So I've got memories of like the sliding doors on the minivan were open, and then we're riding in the back seat with a mountain of phone books through the neighborhoods we grew up in. Just like, gosh, dude, it was such a waste of time
whipping them out.
And we did it so slowly and so poorly that at the end of it, my dad was like, "This is not financially worth it at all."
This took up a whole Saturday. We made $20.
I'm sure we got paid like 2 cents a phone book or something like that. So it's just not feasible. I think we paid more in gas than we did in how much money we made. Anyway.
That's too funny. So this job was really popular during the Industrial Revolution.
Not like a hard pivot right back into the content, huh?
That's how all the big podcasts do it.
Okay.
Maybe.
So you're riding your self-driving car.
Yep.
Standing on its back to reach the top windows.
Yep. With your stick.
You might even be able to reach a third-story window if you're standing on top of a horse, no?
Maybe. Houses were shorter back then.
People
Apartments,
were shorter.
excuse me. Flats.
Everything was shorter. Life expectancy. Yeah, I mean...
People.
Yeah, people. That's
shoes.
Basically... Shoes.
Pints.
Yep. Conversations. Joy.
Yeah, maybe. Lost my train of thought.
Yep.
Okay, so... Oh, I was going to say, one of the more famous pictures of a knocker-upper is of a woman named Mary Smith.
Yep.
Whose daughter went
Generational knocker-upper.
Yep.
Right.
And she used to use a kind of a thicker straw, and she would shoot dried peas at people's windows to wake them up. So kind of like put the peas in the straw and then just shoot them at the windows to wake them up.
Don't you think that wouldn't be loud enough to get somebody up, really?
I'm sure she did it a few times.
Gosh.
I don't know, it's like throwing like a dried pea, like throwing like some small pebbles at a window. Getting people up.
Yeah, but throwing a few small dried peas at a window is different than shooting out a few small.
It worked well enough that she's the most famous one. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Hey, man, game recognized game. You got to innovate somehow.
Yeah. So, along with her pea shooter and her snuffer outer, she is the most iconic knocker-upper that there is.
Dang, dude.
There's got to be a T-shirt with that, too. Somewhere.
England eats a lot of beans, and I think America's got them beat out on food choices, but
you'd think for a country that owned half the world, they're not that creative.
Well, they just call things how they were and then made them whimsical.
All right, fair enough.
They still do that.
So, like I said, this was popular during the Industrial Revolution, which was like 1700-ish to like the mid 1800s. How long do you think this job lasted?
Well, this is going to be like another one of those crazy ones, right?
Yeah.
Like how the last year that a guillotine was used to kill somebody was like 1973.
Yeah, which is bananas.
Yeah, we're going to have to do an episode on guillotines.
Holy cow. Our dads could have been there if they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so wild.
That'd have been a real crime to murder a child, but they would have been there for sure. Oh,
Wait,
you're
what?
saying
no, like witness
to watch it.
Not to,
Oh.
Not to be killed.
Here I am thinking, like, what crime could my dad have committed?
What crime could my father as an 8-year-old boy have committed? Oh my goodness.
Okay, if I'm guessing the last year that this was a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I'm going to say, like, 1965.
So, by the 1940s and 50s, the profession had more or less entirely died out. Although it still continued in some pockets of industrial England until the early 1970s. Yeah, right?
I love it when I'm that close.
You're pretty close.
That's insane.
So some dude or chick in bell bottoms was out there rapping on people's windows at 6 o'clock in the morning to wake them up.
Okay, and like alarm clocks and stuff worked really well at this point. So
They were starting to become pretty consistent at this time.
wouldn't you think that the cost benefit of buying an alarm clock would outweigh the amount of money you're paying somebody to come knock on your window every day?
I wonder if it was almost like a traditional thing. You know what I mean? Like, it is a cool. I mean, it's not a very cool thing, but they're like, you know what? You know what's really cool? Having a stranger wake you up in the morning.
I get it. Traditional, like how you and I always give a 15-second hug after every episode we record.
Every episode.
Got to stay connected.
That's right. So, yeah, they made it to... yeah, that's a lot longer than I thought this would have died out by, like, 1920. So even, like, the 1940s seemed late for me. But, yeah, 1970
Yeah, I can see it, like, through the
last
First World War, and then after that, it's
Sure.
like, okay, we don't
Totally.
need this anymore.
Totally.
Wow.
So, yeah, there you go. 1970s. The early 1970s.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, in some areas, especially where in England where a lot of the miners would live,
Yeah.
they would tend to live in, like, neighborhoods. And so they would actually put out these giant slate boards in front of their flats. And they would write which apartment they were in, what time they needed to be up for their shift at the mine. And they had this whole list on a slate board that sat and leaned against the building.
Yeah.
So that when the waker-upper would come through, they could basically see the schedule and then know which one to tap on, come back in 20 minutes, get the next guy,
Wow.
whatever. So they had a whole system for it and stuff.
Can I go on another tangent?
Hold on,
Okay.
because
You never shoot me down like that.
I don't, because I just got to talk about what these boards were known as.
Well, let's hear what you want to talk about then.
Well, it is my episode. So these boards were known as knocky up boards
Oh my gosh.
or wake up slates.
Wait. Okay. One of those is way more fun than the other.
I wrote it down on the knocky up board.
What's the name of
I'm
the
late for my shift.
light putter outer?
The snuffer outer.
Okay, so you got a knocker upper with their pea shooter checking out the wake up board. What is it called?
The knocky up board.
The knocky up board for the knocker outer
Yes.
with their pea shooter.
Yep. And self-driving horse.
Self-driving horse.
What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive.
innovation.
If
baby.
you don't care about human rights at all, 1700s, bing, bang, boom.
Human rights, they were getting paid.
Yeah, but it wasn't great.
It's a paper route.
You got the worst jobs in America. There are like 2 rich people in
Actually-
the world. It's awful.
Actually, this was featured on an episode of Worst Jobs in Britain. This-
Boy, that's a long list.
Oh. Yeah, it was featured in the Industrial Revolution episode of the television series The Worst Jobs in History, which aired on the BBC.
Okay,
in
to
the
be fair
UK.
though, that doesn't sound like it would be one of the worst jobs in history.
I've done worse jobs than that. That wouldn't
Me
even make
too,
my
dude.
list.
Yeah. Arguably, both of ours have been involved in healthcare, which
Absolutely.
is helping other people.
I'll say, like, anything in hospice.
Ugh. Yeah, you're just going for a stroll through a neighborhood in the morning. You get a knock on
Absolutely.
some people's windows.
Watch the sunrise.
Yeah,
No, I'm cool with it.
yeah.
Throw rocks at people's windows.
Think about that sliver you got the other day that's slowly going to take your life.
But you had no idea.
Yeah. Catch up to you.
Oh, man.
putting a little bit of opium under your tongue so you can make it through the day and feel good about yourself.
Just to make it
that you
through.
bought at a corner store because it was just available.
Man, opium on every corner. I guess what goes around does come around.
I'm starting to think the 1700s is where it's at.
Because combined with what we know about it for real and then all the stuff we've made up about it in these last 45 minutes, I think it sounds like a wonderful place to live.
Take me back to a simpler time.
1700s England,
Like I say,
industrial England.
What goes around comes around, and once again, we've got opium on nearly every corner.
Gosh, and almost every episode we've recorded.
And self-driving cars are starting to become a thing.
Today's sponsor, opium.
Whether in a pill or in a snuff box, it'll get you there.
In a pinch.
Oh boy. Well, that's all I got. Any questions?
Gosh.
We've got the knocker-uppers, the snuffer-outers, and the knocky-up boards.
No, but can I revisit my tangent?
Yes, yeah. Let's go back to your tangent.
So I've had... My cousin does HVAC.
Yes.
He and his dad do HVAC, and so he's been super, super kind to help me out fixing some air conditioning stuff in my house. And so, we're cousins, so I've just been chatting with him about life and whatever. And where our grandpa grew up and both of our moms grew up is this tiny, tiny little mining town in...
Oh, I've been there.
It's like southeastern Utah.
Don't need to remind me.
It's tiny. And in fact, most of the people that I've spent a lot of time there because it's where my mom grew up, but most of the people that I know who have lived there or spent time there are like, glad I made it out, brother, you know? But there's a mine there called Crandall Canyon Mine, which was in the news not too long ago, maybe like within the last 10 years, because they had a bunch of miners that got trapped in there. And then they had to try and get them out. Anyway, but my cousin worked in that mine, and I was asking him how, because he doesn't work there now, so I was like, how's your job now? Do you like it better than working in the mine? And he's like, no, that's the funnest job I've ever had.
Really?
I said, shut up. There's no way it's the... He's like, no, it really was awesome. And he's like, he's like, if you're just in there straight mining, there's no funner job. It was awesome.
Huh.
He's like, the problem is that you would get like, because you're so deep underground, you have a bunch of water like above you seeping through the rocks.
Weird.
So he said that when you were under there, it was like you were in a torrential rainstorm 100% of the time.
Huh.
It was like 30,000 gallons per minute were dripping through the ceiling.
No way.
To the point that they had to have these gigantic pumps that pumped out all the water all the time. And if the pumps went out, then it would start to flood the chambers.
Yeah.
And so he worked on the pumps to fix them a lot. And he said more often than not, he'd be down in the mines like chest deep in freezing cold water, just completely soaked to the bone trying to fix a pump so they could dry it out and work on mining again. And
that's wild.
If all the pumps went out, then it would flood the chamber so bad that by the time they got the pumps working again, they would have to wait weeks before it was pumped out enough before they could start mining again.
That's so crazy, dude.
Isn't that nuts?
That is wild.
So,
I never thought about that. Yeah, you'd be like below the water table.
Right.
Huh.
Yep.
Wild.
What a crazy thing to consider.
Yeah. Underground flooding. Pretty cool. Well, a much more dangerous job than waking up people in the morning.
Yeah, maybe we should
it depends on who you're waking up.
That's true.
You haven't woken up my sister in the morning.
I was going to say my brother. Yeah.
Classic joke.
Maybe we should do a season on most dangerous jobs.
That would be cool.
I'll write it down. In the meantime, though, that was super fascinating.
Yeah, cool one, right?
I feel like it's one of those where we get more information in there and then it ends up being a little cooler than it looks from the outset.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a little more history to it.
Yeah. And really genuinely surprising that it lasted as long as it did.
It's fair. Well over 100 years.
Crazy.
Well, that's all I've got to present this week, so where should people go if they want to know more?
If you want to know more, the best and most accurate place you're going to find best information is Wikipedia.
Wikipedia.
There's a really handy search bar. Go ahead and search for knocker-upper or knocker-up.
Either or. You can search for snuffer-outer.
Yeah, and it will take you there. If you have suggestions for future episodes, if there's something we talked about that you think you'd like to correct us on, we'd love to hear that kind of stuff.
Yes, we will.
We may even read it on air. So go ahead and send us an email to hello@otherbrothers.studio, and we'll read it there. If you want to see more of our stuff, where can they find us?
You can check us out on social media on Instagram at Low Grade Research Pod. You can see references and pictures from our episodes. You can DM us for the same reasons you would email us.
And Mitch will get those, and he probably will read them.
I will read most of them. Yeah. If I recognize your name, I won't read it.
Yeah, well, figures.
So
Right
go
on.
check us out.
Well, sweet, man. I guess I'll catch you on the next one.
See you in the next one. Thanks, everybody.